Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on our coffee break with the amazing Holly Claire, the social media advisor. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Jade.
I'm
Thanks
so
for having
excited
me.
you're here. Yay! So, I've been wanting to bring you on for a while because I get a lot of questions about social media and why mine's so popular and blah, blah, blah. And I have to keep telling people the same thing like, well, it was really Holly that helped me get out of my shell. And right now, the theme of, especially this month that we're talking about a lot, is authenticity.
Hmm.
So, tell me a little bit about what that means to you, especially in social media.
Oh, so the key for me in social media is all about being yourself, telling your story, and being authentically present, which just means really showing up as who you truly are. People use social media all the time and they're like, oh, it's all the pretty pictures, it's all a facade. Well, actually, if you're authentically walking in your own present self, then there's no facade and people can get to really get to know you. And that's where the relationship starts.
And that's a really good point that, people say like sales is about selling features or services, but it really is about people buying you. And that
Yes.
was something you were really into when we were talking about our strategy. How do you feel that people can really represent themselves in social media? And we're talking about all platforms, of course,
Yes.
to start that conversation, to start that relationship without being silly.
Ooh, yeah, because that's the first thing when people think about marketing, they think about, oh, I have to sell, 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 right? It's all the shiny things. In
Mhm.
actuality, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust, and your ideal client is actually you. So if you develop out an editorial calendar and you've got themed days based off of topics that you enjoy, people are going to be gravitating to that theme. And that's how they can really get to know you. So, in your business page, for example, if you happen to be fierce like a ninja, you might share some posts about being fierce like a ninja. If you love to dance, you'll probably share some posts about dancing. And then you can sprinkle in the business aspect because it's, I like to relate it to dating. So, when I'm just getting sales, 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 I feel like you're taking me to the bedroom without giving me a kiss.
Oh, burn. Okay.
Right? Okay. So if you massage the relationship with, hey, here's some little quirky fun things about me. Now I'm getting to know that personality of you and I'm going to be more open to receive whatever it is you're trying to sell to me. So really 80% of the time, fun things, knowledge-based tips, valuable information, and even asking questions to spark engagement to get to know you and build that relationship. Then 20% of the time, it's the promoting your item.
And that's a really good ratio, I think. And I know that a lot of people worry when it comes to like, oh, I need to promote, my social media business, blah, blah, blah. My business always has to look perfect. Everything always has to look like it's in control. How do you feel about that when it comes to not really always sharing the authentic message?
Oh, there's something beautiful about being messy. And the the facial quirks, the pausing to have your thought. When everything you do and produce is 100% polished and pristine, you're going to be really in the mindset of being a perfectionist and not really being present in the space of how your audience wants to receive you. So I think about video, video,
Totally.
and in the moment of experiencing video, you've seen people who've transcribed things and read the teleprompters, and
Yeah.
it all sounds very formal and stiff. But here we are having a conversation and we're flowing in the moment of that conversation. And you can hear that. You can see our inflections. And because it's video, I don't get to see myself all the time.
Right.
Everyone else gets to see me for who I am, but I don't get to see that. So when we start to focus on our imperfections that everyone else loves, then we really miss out on the opportunity to just be present and serve the audience in a way that is really just for them, because it's not about us at the end of the day.
That's true. That's true. And there was somebody that I had on the podcast earlier this month that had done this really like crazy fun Christmas elf random dance and it got the most hits and it was so popular and she'd been putting out all this really great content. But for some reason that was like she was like doing this kind of crazy dance as Allison Rep for those of you who know her. And it got a lot of attention. How do you strategize based off of that? Like a post that gets that much attention and to carry the weight of that to keep those people engaged?
Yes. So there's a lot of really great tactics. Obviously, cross-promoting your content is going to be valuable. If you see something that is getting a lot of really great traction in Facebook land, why aren't you using that in LinkedIn as well? Right? Why aren't you also using that in YouTube? And repurpose it in such a way where it kind of looks unique. Maybe ask a question in one or give a sneak peek preview. I love that. There's nothing more fun than blooper videos.
Love
If
those.
there was, yes. So why not have like a 30-second blooper reel of the dancing, and then want to know more? Click here to find out. Bring them to another channel so that they're continuing to engage further with you. You can
And
also do things like small amounts for boosted or targeted ads for that particular post.
right, yeah.
Yeah. So
right, there's a blooper right in my hand.
I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
$1 a day for up to 4 days. That is the smallest amount you can do. Why not? If you're getting some great numbers, boost that on forward. Let's see how much further we can go.
That's great advice. And I think that it's really interesting because so many people get really hung up on social media and they really think it takes a lot of effort and a lot of just time that they don't have. And when we did our roadmap strategy thing of amazingness, you were able to show me some tools that didn't require me to post every day. And
Yes.
of course, we're not getting, any type of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Sponsorship for talking about these things. But what do you tell people to do when they don't want to just get sucked into social media every day in order to get those numbers?
Great question. So there are third-party tools. Hootsuite is one. I also don't get affiliate from any of them either. Hootsuite is one you can schedule to. There's free options and paid options. Buffer is also awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Another tool you can use if you don't want to schedule ahead of time, but you want to kind of keep track of comments and engagement, download the app for the business pages, because Facebook has an app, but they also have a business page app.
Right.
Instagram has an app, but that also is incorporated in that business suite app. Same thing with LinkedIn. If you don't want to sit there and have to look through and scroll through your news feed and spend hours and hours on that, download these apps to check your engagement and then schedule out your content ahead of time. So that way you can actually focus on what you love doing the most.
And so when people are looking into this strategy roadmap thing that you do, I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what to talk about on social media. I mean, I only know how to talk about my services and I only know how to talk about why they should buy me versus, this whole relationship that we're talking about here. When you do this, when we did this together, it was a lot of fun, but it was also scheduled for like the year and it was all repurposing. Can you explain to people why you do it that way?
Yes. You have an emotion tied to your year. Not everybody has a word of the year. I happen to have my word for last year was present. My word for this year is limitless.
Oh,
yes. And so there's a thought and a feeling that comes behind your vision and your goals for the year. And whether you actually map it out or not, there is still an emotion that comes behind that. And every month throughout the year, there's 12 emotions that you feel going through the different seasons. January, you might feel new beginnings. February, you might feel love. It just depends on who you are and what that emotion is. So you can actually take your whole year calendar and be really intentional with the services that you're providing, not over promoting, but even provide extensive value in the content you're sharing. So when you look at your year and you say, okay, so January, new beginnings. What can I talk about for new beginnings for my business and the services I provide? You can break it down even further by week. You can say, I want to hit these 4 key points about new beginnings with video, for example. And those could be key, valuable content for your videos, for your podcasts, for some of the tips that you share in social media. And then when you say, okay, so for this quarter or this month, I want to promote this service because that aligns with what's going on in my industry during that time.
right.
Then it takes 8 touches for someone to remember something that you did. So when you share about it throughout each of those weeks, now people are remembering, oh, she does video for events. I need to keep that in mind. Oh, and it's about event season. So let's make sure we, follow her along for that direction. You can even take it further from going from the month to the week to the day of the week and have a themed day of the week that fits the theme for everything. And it's a great way to plan. Some people love it. and it keeps them on track. And when you develop it for the whole year, you can ebb and flow and change things up. Last year, people were changing their messages all over the place.
Truth.
But if you
Yeah.
had a full year planned out, you could easily pick that up when the message changes again and look at it and say, okay, so I didn't get to talk about this during this time, but it's relevant this year. So now I've got that already planned out. So I can easily just sit down, create the content for it, and move on my way.
I really like that. And that's why you're calling it the roadmap, right? Because you have a plan. It's not like saying, okay, let's go to Vegas. Which way is south? Like,
Yes.
and you have no idea what you're doing. You have at least a plan of like, okay, we should probably get on I-25, start there. And that, the roadmap does deviate and change. And I know that I've had a couple conversations about like, okay, well, this is no longer a thing right now. Like last year, event season was no longer a thing. No one was doing events. And that was one of my busy seasons. And so we're like, oh, okay, find something new. And that's what's nice about this idea is that the flexibility in social media, and it's constantly evolving. And that's one thing that you teach your clients. What I remember is how to stick with the evolution without having to feel trendy. So how do you teach people to stay, us older people, to stay with the trend of
who's old?
Me. I'm one of the older people that I still have to ask Lauren, one of our videographers, what things mean, because I have no idea.
I have to look things up all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. But to keep up with the trends to a certain amount, but also not losing our authenticity. How do you feel about trends and how much you should hang on to their coattails?
Ooh, you're asking some good questions today.
Thank you.
I like to look at the fact that every relationship I have is a living, breathing experience. Every moment, if I'm taking the time to invest in that relationship, it's going to ebb and change as our relationship ebbs and change and flows as well. Technology is going to come and go. Platforms are going to come and go. How can you shift and mold to be relevant in the places where your people are present? And by keeping up with trends, you are sort of setting a standard for what you stand for and what you believe in. And it's very delicate in this season. If you had created a Parler account, you basically believed one thing.
Yeah.
Perceived by the audience. If you created a MeWe account, you believed one thing, perceived by the audience. If you're on Clubhouse, it's perceived that you are an Apple user.
Yeah.
There's different perceptions. So when you keep up with trends, you have to be very, very delicate to not overabuse hashtags. And also you run risk of getting canceled if you're too relevant. And, this is a cancel culture society right now. And it's likely so. There's a lot of things that should be canceled. There's a lot of thoughts that need to be reprocessed. There's a lot of language that needs to be reworked. True. And because that's all coming out and being more exposed, which is a very healthy thing, being up to date with trends, you have to walk the fine line. Does it fit with your brand? Is it in alignment with your brand and your message? Is it alignment with your morals and your values? If you can say yes to those things, then jump on in. If you can't say yes to those things, sit back a little bit and take a look. Watch how it unfolds and respond accordingly.
I like that you just now gave us a checklist of like, if it doesn't hit these two things, you need to pass on it. Because I think a lot of people have to just infer, what is it that we need to do? Is this one we need to chase? Is this one not? I mean, we're getting a lot of information from a lot of different places.
Yes.
And so I think that's a great tool you just gave us on like, does it hit these two requirements? No, then pass on it and look at the next thing. So Thank you for sharing that with us. It was really great. So I don't want to take too much of your time because you are so busy and you are all like into so many things. You work with various chapters for women's groups and you obviously still help your clients because I still need help, and you get out there and do a lot of things. So for business owners that are starting 2021 that they've just completely restructured. We're one of them. We went from doing in-person videos to doing online classes to teach people how to do their own videos because you can't get a videographer right now, at least safely. So with other businesses that are going through this change, how can your roadmap help them?
Yes. The roadmap is basically, how are you going to share your message online? You use that as your staple. And then you can adjust and shift from there. Your services will always adjust and change, but generally your message is going to still be the same. Even though people aren't doing events in person, they're doing events online. So how can I shift and mold and make this relevant for that space? You've done a brilliant job of that.
Thank you.
And it's a guideline to help you map out what direction you want to go. And from there, you get the choice to pick which channels. Do I turn left? Do I turn right? Or do I continue to go forward? And that's what we do. We really identify who your ideal avatar is, so that way you know what messaging you should share. What are their interests? What do they not like? And what are the hashtags that they tend to use? What hashtags do you want to be found under? Mm-hmm. What is the messaging you actually want to say? Do you want to do ads? Are they relevant? If you do ads, how can we make them more strategic and really targeting? And then how in the heck do I read the reports, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of components in the roadmap, and it's cool because there's a way to work with me where you get 6 sessions directly with me, plus mm-hmm. access to all of the online tutorials and a Facebook group and a monthly session. It's like a mastermind. Mm-hmm. But if you didn't have time or budget to work with me directly, you could work with the online program, which is the same information, just broken down into tutorials, just like you were talking about with your videos. So there's a lot of different ways to connect there for sure. And I would say at the very, very least, if you don't move forward with the roadmap or developing the strategy, then I highly encourage that you join my Facebook group, which is called Be Awesome in Social Media. It's free for everyone. I share tons of tips, lots of articles. It's a resource that has developed over the last 5 years. Almost 500 people are in there, and everyone gets the opportunity to learn together what's trendy, what's new, what's going on. And so at the very least, I highly encourage that you join that group and follow along in that content, because you might learn a lot.
I love that. Thank you so much for that give back too. That's actually something I learned from you as well, is, because not everyone can hit, certain goals or can make certain services work, but they can start with those small pieces. And then when they're already familiar with you. They already know and like what you're producing. And they're like, oh, wow, she really does know what she's talking about. So they can move forward in that. So that's such a great strategy that you shared with us again at the end of this. So Holly, thank you again for all of your time today. I really appreciate it. Everyone, that was the coffee break. Thanks for joining us.